No, if there's one thing we can always count on in the book community, is that every couple weeks, maybe every few months, there's always going to be some sort of drama regarding reviews. Hmm? Hi, everybody. I am a multi genre independent author. One pen name, TR Sloth, is for all things dark, gory, and depressing, and the Margot Primrose is for all things romantic and swoon worthy. Two pen names, two websites, two Instagrams, one YouTube channel, because here we're going to talk about anything and everything affecting the book community. Let's get started. So, when I first became an author, I knew reviews were important because who's going to pick up a book by an author you don't know if you don't know anything about it? Reviews allow readers to put their thoughts, their opinions, everything into their own words and reach other readers. That's how it works with, Yelp and restaurants. It's how it works with new products. I mean, I don't know anybody who goes into a brand new restaurant or store or buys anything without looking at customer reviews. Same for books. So, authors are always going around asking people for reviews, and that's a big part of their pre-production or pre-publication marketing is advanced reader copies, ARCs for reviews. Now, after I became an author, I learned a lot more about reviews, and there's more to it than that. When you get a certain number of reviews, online algorithms will kick in and promote your book for you. And so this is true on places like Amazon and Barnes and Noble. If the more reviews you have, the more the online algorithm will promote your book for you and it will do a lot of the legwork. So that means authors are desperate for reviews. It's unfortunate, but it's true, especially for the small press and indie published authors. They really need those reviews because the Amazon algorithm can either be your friend or be your enemy. Okay. Authors are just like, please review my book, please review my book, please review my book. Did you review it? And some people are a lot more shameless about this than others. I try to take a more relaxed approach. I mean, I've seen some really weird recommendations out there where they're like, oh, if you know someone read your book, message them constantly to ask them if they put the review online. No, I don't do that. That's uncomfortable. I tried it once and I felt so icky doing that. Ugh. But so reviews. All of this background information is to say that there's always some sort of drama about reviews, and they're so important and they're so valued within the community and between other readers. Why would there be so much drama? We're going to get into it. All right. So, here's the thing. There can be readers who do nasty things in their reviews. And there can also be authors that do some really nasty things to their reviewers. We're going to dive in. Okay. So here I have a list of all the different things people say about reviews. And a lot of times when people say these things, they take these opinions very seriously and will get into arguments with people online about them. I don't condone online arguments. I don't see the point, but we'll dive right in here. Okay. You never should review a DNF. Anything below 4 stars is bad and should not be posted. Anything below 4 stars should never have the author tagged in it, regardless. Any review that is 4+ stars that has any type of criticism in it should never be tagged by the author. You should never tag authors in any review, regardless. You should never leave a 1 or 2 star review. Some people even went so far as to get into fights with their reviewers and say, I don't need you. Let me tell you something. I looked up the numbers, and there are nearly 11,000 books published daily. Not monthly, not weekly, daily. Those readers don't need you. There are so many other books out there that those readers could be picking up. You need to conduct yourself accordingly if you're an author. You need them. They don't need you if you're an author. And it sucks, but it's true. You're the business owner. You're providing a product, and you need to convince people your product and dealing with you on a business level is going to be pleasant. So let's dive in. There have been authors who will harass their ARC teams. They will reach out to anyone who had any type of criticism about their book and harass them. Some of this harassment happens publicly, y'all. They will go on whatever their poison is, whether it's the Twitter master or Instagram or the clock app, and they will publicly harass these reviewers who gave them a bad review. There are authors who will have a whole list for their ARC team of rules that they have to abide by. Some of them are, if there's any type of criticism, you absolutely cannot tag me. If there's anything below, there are some rules that are pretty common, like if you have a review below 3 stars, just wait until after publication to post it, like a week after publication. That's a pretty common one. It's also becoming pretty common for authors to ask not to be tagged in reviews below 3 stars. Or is it 3 stars or below? It's 3 stars or below. Personally, I don't think a 3 star review is always bad, but I don't care if people tag me in any review. I just ignore them. To be honest, I ignore reviews. I'm sorry, but I do. The reviews aren't for me. They're for my readers. Now, this behavior from authors is putting a lot of ARC readers and a lot of people in the community off to helping authors. And that is really, really unfortunate, especially for small press authors and indie authors, because as it is, we struggle to get any type of respect. We struggle to get any type of momentum for our new books. And so when authors are behaving like this and doing these nasty things, like one author had her whole horde of followers go after a reviewer. Why would you do that? I get it. I get it. Okay, being a public figure, even if you're a small public figure, putting your books out there, putting yourself out there makes you vulnerable. And it opens you up to a lot of nasty stuff. Okay. I had an ARC reviewer send me an email that was like 3 pages of them just shitting on my book and telling me how horrible it was and how awful it was. If it was just a regular reader off the street, I don't think I would have responded, but this was an ARC reader who was reaching out to me before publication, and she actually asked me, she's like, "Do you want me to post this?" First of all, I don't think any reviewer, ARC or otherwise, should have to ask permission to post a review, even if it's negative. That's not the point. The point is not to pad your ego. The point is to get publicity. And listen, there's an old saying, there's no such thing as bad publicity. Maybe a little bit, but you know what I'm saying. And so I told her, like, that email hurt. It hurt really bad. It was my first ever book. I might have cried a little bit. Okay. But you know what? I took some time. I took some space. I did not reply immediately, because if I had replied immediately, it probably would have been a really, really nasty email that would have escalated things. So I waited. I thought about it, and I replied. And then here's the thing. I don't condone replying to reviews normally, but this woman went out of her way to send me a private email asking if it was okay for her to publish the review. And so I started off by telling her, like, I'm really sorry you didn't enjoy the book. I'm sorry that you had such a hard time with it, and I am never going to tell you not to post your review, because your honest opinion is what I asked for. I asked you for your honest opinion, and I want you to give it. Like, that's not the point of me sending out these ARC reviews, to censor what people say. So I told her that, and then I went through some of her points, and I took quotes from the book and said, well, this is why I disagree with this because of this line. I didn't do it for everything she said because it would have taken me forever. It was such a long email. And here's the thing. She did post her review, but she ended up giving me a halfway decent star rating, and I think part of that is because of how I responded. I don't know for sure. I'm just going to tell myself that. And honestly, if this was just a random reader, I might have just sent them an email saying, I'm sorry you feel that way, and I'm sorry you didn't enjoy the book, and left it at that. I don't think if this was just a regular reader who bought the book and sent me that email, I would have gone through and sent screenshots of the book, refuting some of the things that they said, because I don't think that's necessarily appropriate to engage in everything like that. And for lack of a better term, it can be a slippery slope. I know that phrase is not always logical, but it's the thing that I can think of. So if you start responding to everything, you're not going to have a good look. Like, for instance, there was this woman, this other author who had a book coming out, and I had read her first two, and I was really looking forward to this. And she had an open call for ARC readers, and I was like, oh, goody, maybe I can be an ARC reader for her. I liked the first two books in the series. And then I was going through Goodreads to make sure that I had reviewed the first two, because sometimes I forget. I'm not perfect, okay? I know reviews are important, but sometimes I don't do them immediately. So I went through Goodreads to double check that I had, in fact, posted my reviews. And you know what I saw? She responded to almost every single review on there. Good reviews, bad reviews, everything in between. She responded to them. And this seems weird to me. This seems a little weird. That seems like there's like an unspoken boundary that was crossed by her doing that. And this is tough because it's there needs to be reader spaces. I do agree with that. And there's a lot of discord about this because authors are readers too. And the internet is an open space. The internet is not for one person and not for the other person. It's everyone is on the internet, okay? But I do agree that there are certain things that authors should kind of step back from. And I think responding to all of your reviews on Goodreads is something you should not be doing. And now, there's another instance where someone, a reviewer, went directly to an author, went on their page, and I think this was on Tweetmaster, so they had like a page that people can like post their thoughts on. I don't have a Tweetmaster, so I don't know how it works. I avoid it. It sounds really dramatic, so I'm not on there. But what happened was that this blew up so bad, it was on all of this author's social media platforms. What happened is this author wrote a royal romance, and a lot of these royal romances are kind of like a Cinderella or like a Princess Diaries, you know, someone finds out that they're royalty and then they live a wonderful life and they fall in love with like a duke or something. Or vice versa, they're royalty and they don't want to be royalty, so they go pretend to be a commoner and then they fall in love with somebody who owns a bakery or something. Right? So she wrote this, and someone came to her page and flat out called her a pedophile. They accused her of writing child corn. I'm not sure if YouTube allows me to say that word, so I'm saying corn. They accused her of writing child corn because the main character in her book happened to be the same name of someone who was alive and was underage when the book was published. Was a royalty, so I guess I can kind of see where the connection came in, but it was a different country. It was a different setup completely, and this author didn't know anything about this prince existence when she started. I'm pretty sure. I went through her statement on her Instagram, and it sounded like she didn't even know about this guy at the time that she started writing. She just heard the name and really liked it and thought it was regal. That you can respond to that. That's something that has crossed a line. That's libel that can ruin people's lives. That is a very, very serious accusation of something that is illegal and very disgusting. So if something like that happens, I understand why an author would respond and why they would take offense, because that's pretty awful. That's a really awful thing to accuse someone of, and it's honestly their reasoning was a bit of a reach. But other than direct personal attacks, I really don't understand why some authors feel the need to respond to everything. I mean, I was going through threads, author threads. It's a bit of a mess, but sometimes it's entertaining. I was going through author threads, and this one author was talking about how they had their first 1 or 2 star review. And they were like, how do I respond? You don't. You don't respond. You keep going. You keep writing. And I mean, if you want to read the review and see if there's anything constructive in it, you can. I don't always recommend that. See, when I first started writing, I kind of would read my reviews because I was like, okay, I'm new, I'm still learning, I need to understand what people like and what people don't like. Well, I learned pretty quick that books are extremely suggestive, and so I would have dozens of reviews saying, I love the world building, I love the main character, and then I would get a 1-star review saying, I hate this bitch. This main character is horrible and this world building is non existent. It's subjective. It's so subjective that there's very, very rarely a time that you can get something constructive out of your reviews. Now, I do admit, one time I took a 1-star review and I made like a little meme about it. Like, you know that dog that's like, do, do. It's like a meme and the dog's like dances like, do, 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 do. It's like sarcasm. I took that review because someone gave my demonic possession horror book, which the cover and everything is very clearly demonic possession. The title says a horror novella. Okay. Someone gave me a 1-star review because they don't read horror. Let that sink in. So I screenshotted that review, but I blacked out the person's name. And I screenshotted the review and I made like a goofy little video about it because sometimes you have to laugh at the bad reviews, you know? But honestly, at the end of the day, the reviews are for the readers. They're not for the author in the sense that the author should be responding. They're for the author in the sense that they help the algorithm. They help credit your book. They help readers find your book. So yes, you can argue that reviews are for the author in that sense, but that's kind of where it ends, you know? You shouldn't be responding to these reviews. You shouldn't be harassing your reviewers. Oh god, you never should be harassing your reviewers. Don't do it. Okay? Like I get how frustrating it is. Okay, I was in a book blog tour. So if you don't know what that is, it's a tour company will organize a bunch of influencers who have an established bookstagram and or their own website, and they all go through and they'll post a picture of your book and post their review, and it's like every day there's a new person. I had several of those, and they didn't lead to any reviews on Goodreads or Amazon. I think maybe one or two of the book tour people, the book tour hosts, actually put a review up on another platform. That sucks. Okay, it sucks because it's a lot of time and it's a ton. Some of these are very expensive, and some people want physical books. I would suggest you avoid those. They're a lot of money, and they don't always turn out well. But anyway, it sucks. It really does suck when something like that happens because you're trying so hard to promote your book and you think that this is going to be great. This is going to give you those reviews you need to be seen by the algorithm, and then bleh, nothing happens. So I understand why that can be extremely discouraging, but that's kind of your problem as the author. That sounds really, really harsh. It's not that I'm trying to be harsh, it's that I'm trying to be honest. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings by saying that. I just want people to understand that they need to be nice to their reviewers. What are you doing? Like, and so sometimes I see this a lot more now. This is becoming fairly common. A lot of authors will ask, "Do not tag me in a review 3 stars or under." I understand why they would ask that. Nobody likes to open up their Instagram or whatever social media and see that they're being torn apart. No, nobody wants that, okay? I get it. I had that happen to me. One of my blog book tours, the hosts were just tearing my book apart. I was tagged in it. The tour company was like, great review. And the rest of the hosts, like, one host was telling another host not to even read the book because she didn't like it that much. Okay, that's rude. That's rude. Don't do that if you're a host or a reviewer. That's just mean. But you know what I did? I was tagged in it. I looked at it and I went, well, that freaking sucks. And I moved on with my day. And I looked at my statistics and I looked at my Goodreads and I looked at my Amazon and I was like, you know what? These blog tours aren't helping me anyway. So I don't do them anymore. Maybe that's petty, but that's how I keep myself separate from it, you know? I'm never going to tell, maybe it's just a me thing, but I'm not going to tell somebody not to tag me in something unless it's inappropriate. If it's a review and it's a bad review and they tag me in it, oh well. Oh well. The internet is not a safe space. That sounds mean. I keep saying that. It sounds mean, but it's not. It's not a safe space. Anyone and everyone can be on the internet. And people get emboldened when they're on the internet because they have a screen between them and the person that they're talking about. They don't have to see the direct effects that their words are having on this person. And so the internet is really not a safe space. I mean, that's why cyberbullying is so popular. And so that brings me back to my point. I understand why authors are asking not to be tagged in these things. I really do. I kind of have my own opinions on it. For me personally, not for other people. Other people are definitely allowed to say, don't tag me in these. I think that's fair. If that's, especially if that's their ARC team, I do think that's a fair ask. But for me personally, I don't care. I don't have the energy to tell people not to do this. I don't have the energy to track people down and get mad at them for tagging me in a bad review. And when I first started, I did make some mistakes. I think there are some unwritten courtesies in the book world I was unaware of. And for me personally, I don't think a 3-star review is bad. I really don't. I think there are even some people that say even if you say nice things about the book, but then you add a criticism, it's not a good review. I don't agree with that. And apparently I'm in the minority. So there, this, I still think about this all the time. I feel kind of bad about it, but there was a book that I read and I wrote a review for the author. He's an independent author. So I wanted to tag him in it because it's like indie authors, we need as much exposure as we can get, right? And also I really didn't think my review was bad. I gave the book a 3-star or like a 3.5. And I said, I really liked the book. I really, really want to read the next one. I loved the mystery. I loved like the undertone of horror in this mystery. And then I just listed some things that I didn't like, some things that didn't work for me. And then his response was, well, sorry you didn't like it. Maybe the next one will be better. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. That's not what I meant. I still really liked this book. I still have it. And I plan on rereading it. And so that was on me for not knowing that. But I think that's also kind of just, I have a different view on things than a lot of authors, and I didn't realize that at the time. So it's messy. It's messy. It's messy. It's messy. If you're a reviewer, just keep that in mind that some authors really, really don't want to be tagged in things. And especially if it's like a 1 or a 2-star. Okay. And a lot of authors don't even like being tagged in 3-star reviews. And there was an ARC form I was filling out. I was filling out a form to be part of someone's ARC team, and they said, do you promise not to tag me in any reviews, even if they're 4 and 5-star, if you have anything critical to say? I kind of was taken aback when I read that, but at the same time, it's her ARC team. She's allowed to make that ask. I just kind of was flabbergasted, like, oh, is that normal? That was the first time I've seen that. Most of the ones that I see are if it's 3 stars or below, wait to tag or wait to post it until after the book has been out for a week. And if it's 3 stars or below, don't tag the author. Those are the most common ones that I see. So if you're new to this and you're like me and you kind of have blinders and you don't really care and you just ignore when you're tagged, just be aware of that because that can ruffle some feathers. There are actually some authors that kind of stopped talking to me because I didn't tag them, but I posted reviews on Goodreads of one of their books and I was like, not for me right now. There were these issues that I wasn't a big fan of. They didn't like that. And, you know, I have mixed feelings about that because there are some people that are kind of the mindset of if we're both indie authors or we're both authors in general, we need to support each other and lift each other up. But I don't want to leave a false review. I don't want to leave a false review. And to me, that seems false. I don't want to be mean to anybody. I don't want to kick anybody in the teeth and tell them that they're a horrible writer. I'm never going to do that. But I'm going to leave an honest review that says, I didn't like this part. I don't think this worked for me. But I always try to put something nice in there too, you know? I always try to say, like, this had, like, I liked this part, I really enjoyed this part, I still want to read the next book. This is just what didn't work for me. And there are some authors where if you do that and you're a fellow author, they will stop talking to you. And I think that's really, really unfortunate because it kind of fosters this concept of quid pro quo. And I don't think that you should be giving someone a good review just because they're another author. I really don't. I think you should be polite. You should always be polite. Okay, that's just a standard. And if you accidentally make a social faux pas, then that's one thing. You learn from it and you grow. Okay? But this concept that you can never give another author a bad review, not cool. And I don't know how many other authors do this. I've only seen this a handful of times, and I'm really hoping that that is the minority of authors that act like that, because I would be really upset with my community if I found out this was more common. All right, so one of the other things that I have on here about book reviews is DNFing. Some people say you should never review a book if you DNF it. So if you don't know, DNF is do not finish. So if you're reading a book and you get halfway through it and you're like, I can't do this anymore, I'm not reading the rest of this book. Some people think that you should never leave a review in that case. And honestly, I think it depends. I really think it depends. If you're in the house of, okay, this book just wasn't for me. Like, there's nothing wrong with the writing. I just didn't like the story. There's nothing wrong with leaving like a 3-star review saying that. I don't think there is. And if you're not finishing a book because it's driving you nuts and because the writing is bad in your opinion, or you hate the characters, the plot is flimsy in your opinion, I also don't think that there's any reason you shouldn't leave a review for that. I think that people are getting a little bit too, what's the word, chronically online? Is that it? Maybe chronically on Goodreads is a good way to put it. They're too chronically on Goodreads. They're thinking too much about their reviews. They're taking too much stock in them. Reviews are for other readers, they're for the algorithm, they're for promotions, and you can go through your 4 and 5-star reviews and pull out like little quick like sentences that you can use to promote, because those reviews are public. And if they're another author, you can ask them, be like, hey, can I quote you as being this author saying this? That's fine too. So the reviews, they really are for the readers. They're not really for the authors unless you're using them for marketing because they're good reviews, or if they're helping you with the algorithm, right? Reviews. There's so much drama about reviews. Something else that has happened recently that isn't on the author end, it's on the reviewer end. There are people who will go through and they'll decide they don't like an author. This can be because, excuse me, there's an author recently who has a book coming out, and people are really mad because she started a series and she hasn't finished it yet. And so, but this other project that she's been working on is coming out before the rest of the series. And listen, a lot of authors work on multiple projects at a time. It is not realistic to expect an author to publish a book every single year while they're only working on one project at a time. Okay. A lot of authors, when they work on more than one project, and they still can't publish a book every single year. Okay. So what people did is they decided they were mad at this author, so they went onto her Goodreads and they just started review bombing. And if you don't know what that is, review bombing is when people go onto a public platform such as Goodreads and they just leave 1 and 2-star reviews just because. So places like Amazon have a lot of rules about who can and can't post reviews, and they have that verified purchase banner. And so it's a little bit harder to review bomb on places such as Amazon because of that. So a lot of this usually happens on Goodreads. So people will either, I saw this happen, there was a YouTuber who had a book and people got really mad at her. I don't know the whole drama, but they just went in and started just giving her 2 stars. And I think that sucks. I think that really sucks. You should not do that unless there's something very serious going on. Like there, even then, it's that's not nice. You shouldn't just go on and decide that, oh, I'm mad at this author, so I'm just gonna give their book 2 stars. And it's really a mob mentality when this starts happening. I don't know. Is there like a group chat where everybody just decides that they're gonna do this? Because I don't know how this happens. There's just hundreds of people that go on there and give 1-star reviews even though they've never read the book. This happened to a book that was not even published. Our copies hadn't even been given out, and they had hundreds of 1-star reviews on Goodreads. How did you organize that? But anyway, that's a bad reviewer thing. Okay, so if you're a reviewer, just resist the urge to review bomb or encourage review bombing, and resist the urge to go directly to the authors and tell them that they suck. That's not nice. That's a lot of your energy too. Why are you using your energy doing that? If you're the type of person that does that, why? I don't understand it. Why are you taking your valuable time and energy to go seek out someone that you don't like just to go, ha ha? I don't get it. I really don't get it. Anyway, I might have to edit this part because I need to read for a second. In short, if you're an author, you really just stay away from the reviews. Just if they're that upsetting to you, don't even read them, okay? Don't read them. Don't look at what you're tagged in, even if it makes you that upset, don't do it. And if you start finding yourself getting to that point, you need to take a step back, okay? There is someone on YouTube, a fellow YouTuber, who had a really, really good quote. It wasn't about books, it was about influencers in general. But I think it's very, very relevant to authors too. Um, it says, don't put on a show if you can't handle the audience. And this was by Funk Frog Bait. That's her YouTube channel. I think that's a really, really good piece of advice for anyone who is in the creative space, anyone who's an influencer, an author, an artist of any type. If you put yourself on the internet, if you put your work on the internet, people are going to be mean. I mean, it's not always guaranteed, but there is that possibility. And even if they're not being mean, people are going to criticize. And it's just a part of life, unfortunately. It's unpleasant, and it's unpleasant. Nobody wants to go through that. But when you become a creator, if you put yourself out there, you're putting yourself out there for praise, but you're also putting yourself out there for criticism. And you really need to consider that. And if you want to put yourself in that situation and if you can handle it. So if you need advice on that, my advice would be, if you're really, really struggling, don't read them. Just don't. Don't read the reviews. Don't look at what you're tagged in if you're really struggling. Or if you open up what you're tagged, a lot of times reviewers will have the stars right at the top. Okay, so you can open it up really quickly and see how many stars there are and decide if you feel comfortable continuing to read. Or sometimes if I'm really nervous, I might give my phone to my husband and be like, can you look at this for me? And that works too. That's fine. You need to find what works for you so you can maintain a professional face, because this is a business. Your books are a business. Once you decide to publish, obviously, once you decide to publish, your books are a business, okay? And you need to find what works for you, because you're out in public, you're out there for criticism, you're out there for praise. You need to figure out the best way for you to handle that without going off the rails. Even if it's not off the rails, just keeping that distance between yourself and your readers and allowing people to criticize your work without it really upsetting you. And if you're a reviewer, then just, you're allowed to not like things. You really are. You're allowed to not like things, but you're not allowed to make things up and go to people's pages and accuse them of committing crimes. You're not allowed to review bomb. That's just rude. You're not allowed to go to someone's private messages and emails and spend pages and pages telling them how horrible they are and expect no retaliation. So if you get anything out of this, it's that authors are people too. They're doing their best. And a lot of them, I think, when you start this, they don't think of the business aspect, they don't think of the criticism. And that can be really hard to take. If you've never been in that situation, you don't know how you would respond. So you can sit here and say, oh, well, I would never do that. But until you're actually in that situation, you don't actually know. Until you open up your phone and you see hundreds of people calling you a freaking child toucher, you don't know how you're going to respond. Okay? So be nice. Just in general, be nice. If you're an author, be nice to your reviewers. If you're a reviewer, be nice to your authors. Okay? You're allowed to disagree. You're allowed to not like things. And we need to respect people's opinions on that, because all art is subjective. And we need to remember that, and we need to remember that we're all in this community together. Thank you for watching, and remember, if you want to see more of this content, to subscribe, and please hit the bell button so you will get notified every time I upload a new video.